I'm Nivedita Indrajit, and I'm having a conversation with Smriti Goswami. Hi, Smriti.
Hi, Nivedita, and thank you so much for inviting me for this.
Yes, there is something that I wanted to ask you. There is Smriti and there's Smriti with an IE. Which one is the correct spelling?
So the proper spelling is the one which ends with an I.
Okay.
Smriti with a E is only what I use for my WhatsApp. And that was just because when I was learning numerology and stuff, and someone just sort of told me. And so there's a particular, I'm usually more of a loner, okay? And so that adding that E just gives me a little bit of, just connects me more to people, and that's it. So I don't use it anywhere else except only for my WhatsApp. And interestingly, everybody happens to see the spelling there, whatever's written on the WhatsApp, and then they just sort of use that mostly. And I keep correcting them all the time. So yeah, it's not very significant. It's just there for a while and it works for me. So I was like, why not? But I've not officially changed.
CIE, right? Ties people together.
Yeah, could be. So it just totals up to a particular number, which sort of is more a people's number, so that's what.
No, I asked because when we're going to post this, I'm going to have the right spelling. So
yeah, it ends with only an I.
So can you tell me about your childhood? Can you tell me how it shows your education, siblings?
All right. So my father is he's a pilot with the Indian Air Force. He's of course retired now. So I've traveled all over the country because my dad used to be posted every 2 years. He would be posted to different cities. And I used to be a very naughty child. I was quite a dreamer, just totally mostly lost in my own thoughts. Even at that age, I remember I would just connect so beautifully with earth, with flowers, with, even honeybees or ladybirds. And I was just so in awe of nature. So wherever we've traveled, that's what has been the main focal point for me, just connecting with all the flowers that are there in my house garden or elsewhere and everything. So I have a younger brother. He's 3 years younger than me. He's right now based in Delhi. And
so yeah. Who was naughtier? He was naughtier or you were naughtier?
So he was more rebellious, and I've been a good girl, just lived up to everything and all. But I think I've always been a rebel at heart. So I've done a lot of things which are very contrary to what the image that I portray. And so let me tell you about an incident, which actually I remembered when, so I happened to have a session with Dr. Dane long back. Okay. It was just a Skype session. And I happened to sort of ask him that, I'm terrified of speaking up and asking for things. And, it's just something I need to work on. So that's what was bothering me earlier, of expressing myself. All that has changed quite a bit now, but this was a few years ago, okay? This particular session that I'm talking about. And we just got talking and he's like, okay, how old are you being? And I was like, hey, I'm being 3 years old. 3.5 years old. He's like, what happened? And I was like, my brother was born. And before that, I was the center of attention and, everything. So he's like, okay, so what happened then? I said, I was very happy to see my brother and I love him a lot and all. But my mom saw me with a knife near his crib. And I know for sure there's no way I was going to kill him or anything like that. But I don't know why I had that knife in my hand. And so she was very upset and she actually took the knife away from me. And that was the time when I would really throw a lot of tantrum. I would just lay down on the floor and roll around and just bring the whole house down with my tantrum. And this time, for the first time, when my mom was like, she'd had enough. So she just took my hand and she opened the main door and she put me out. Okay. And I was about 3.5 years old, and I was suddenly out of the house. Okay. Of course, there was a garden and then there was a main gate. So she knew I wouldn't step out of the compound. But at that moment, and I felt really insulted. I felt I've been just thrown out of my house. And so I screamed louder and I cried. And then I realized, oh, this is not working. So, and I knew I could see her standing behind on the other side of the door, because we had, on the sides of the door were these glass bricks.
Yeah.
Okay, so I could see that she's standing there. I knew she's there. So, and then I was like, okay, after a while I couldn't breathe anymore because I'd cried so much. And then I said, sorry, mama, and all. So she took me in, okay, inside the house. So I now realize that I think from that time onwards till now, I just stopped making a demand. I stopped asking for things. And it's only in that session that this came up, because who tends to remember things that had happened in your childhood. So
Right.
there are incidents like this which actually sort of stop you, which might not have been such a big deal at that time. And at times, even we as parents right now, when we say certain things to our kids, we don't even realize that it might have a major impact
Greater
on
impact.
them. Right. So I'm sure my mom didn't have that intention, but it did have that impact on me, which is something I've just realized now. But yes, I stopped making a demand. I just stopped asking for things. So, and I stopped throwing tantrums. So all those things changed. So that was my childhood. Plus,
Thank you for the vulnerability.
Pardon?
Thank you for the vulnerability.
You're welcome. You really don't know who it might contribute to. So that's the reason I just sort of shared. And it just came up because you'd asked. And also, as a child, I used to be quite a tomboy. Okay, I would be like, you would never find me really playing with dolls or anything like that. So I was I was very creative. I would create things out of random pieces of waste, like paper, and I would just paint walls, just be very, very creative with things, play around with colors, and mostly you would see me on a tree, because I
was about to ask that. Did you climb trees?
I climbed trees all the time. So most of my friends used to be boys, and they would always be climbing trees and playing cricket and all. So that's how I've grown up, Plus my younger brother used to be with me most of the time. So I would be like playing football in the rain, like really getting messy and, rolling on the wet mud and stuff and things. So I really had a beautiful childhood and really, really enjoyed. Thankfully, being in armed forces, there's a very protective life that we get to lead, where you get to be exposed to not really exposed, but you get to experience all these life moments.
Even the community, I think, right?
Right. So, and then the best thing that I used to like about this being in armed forces, like leading a life in armed forces, a childhood in armed forces, is because the thing is, every 2 or 3 years, my dad would be posted to a different city. So now it didn't matter, or it doesn't matter what I had been or how I had been performing in my school and in my exams and stuff, and what opinions the teachers or my friends had about me. Maybe I'd not done well in maths or something or whatever, right? But now I'm in a different new city. I'm a new person,
afresh.
And I used to get to start afresh. So every couple of years, I had this opportunity to start afresh. And I used to love that about the whole armed forces.
There are two perspectives, right? One is what you're talking about, that you're seeing it as a possibility to start afresh. And then there's also the friendships that you have made. Did you really miss that?
Yeah, so on hindsight, I don't think I've really made friendships which have lasted that long. So that time we didn't really have that much of connectivity over the phone or anything
Yeah.
Right. So
that was only writing letters at that point of time.
Initially, in initial few months, writing letters, maybe a year or so. And then beyond that, it used to just fizzle off. Yeah. It wasn't really, I don't think I have any friends from my childhood. But the thing is, I used to make new friends every time. So, yeah.
So you've been a pilot.
Yes.
Can you tell me more about that?
So
how did that happen? Was it natural choice, or was that?
So I always wanted to be a pilot because I would see ever since I can remember, I would see my dad get into overalls. They're known as overalls. In Air Force, that's where they were. That's what they were. And I would see him go for his flights and stuff. So I was like, this is very fascinating. Okay. And then we were staying in Agra for a few years, and I saw, so the aircraft would take off, and then it would just take one whole round of this whole area and then go beyond, and right across, like very far off, I could see little paratroopers jumping off. Like there would be tiny dots, and then they would keep growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and then they would, just jump onto the ground. And that used to really fascinate me. I was like, I'm going to join Air Force as a pilot. So for the longest time, I always wanted to join Air Force as a pilot. Unfortunately, that time they didn't take women pilots.
Yeah.
Okay. By the time they decided to do that, I was overage. I mean, I was 21, and that used to be the cutoff age.
I think the women thing started somewhere in 1985, 88.
No, much later. Much later. And sometime in 1990s.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Because I had tried.
Yeah. So, oh, you had tried. Awesome. So I was only interested in joining as a pilot, nothing else. So I did not pursue it otherwise. Like I was overage, so it didn't work for me. But so I also thought I would go for flying, and I chickened out last minute because I'd led a very protective life and a beautiful life. And for me to go to US just for flying all alone by myself, I just couldn't imagine doing that at that time, right after my 12th standard. So I let it be. I gave it a miss at that time. I started flying at Delhi Flying Club.
Okay.
Which took a long time. It took me almost 1 year to just do 6 hours of flying. So I would just go early morning, keep waiting there for days together, and we just wouldn't get flying because there was just one aircraft over there. And so yeah, 6 hours in 1 year, that's like not a very good thing.
Yeah.
So eventually I joined, I picked up an airlines job as a hostess, and flew for a few years. And then I left. Once I got married, I left that job. And once I got married and I had my son, that's when I let that job go. So it was about 2 or 3 years is when I flew as a hostess. Okay. And that's just because we would get to fly all over the world. So that's what was the exciting part, the travel part. And then I quit my job, and I was a full-time housewife, just taking care of the house and the kids. Till one day, there was a conversation between my husband and my mother. And she was just wondering, she was worried about something to do with my brother and stuff, that he doesn't seem to be very happy where he's working. So my husband just happened to say, oh, why don't you send him for flying? So she's like, but at this age now, he's like, anyone can choose to be a pilot at any age. There's no age limit to it. And he just sort of casually looked at me. He's like, oh, if Smriti wants, she can still go ahead and be a pilot. And he just said it very casually. And we were in the car, we were driving back home. And I had my little daughter in my arms. And that night I just couldn't sleep. And I was like, this is something I've always wanted to do. And maybe now's the time. Okay. It took a lot of convincing. I had a tough time convincing everybody, especially my husband. And also I realized that I did not have, by now things had changed. And now to be a pilot, you need to have physics and maths in your 12th standard. Okay. And so maths is a subject I used to hate. I just let it go. That was the first subject I let go of when immediately after my 10th standard. So, but I had science without maths. So that's what I had to do then. Then I had to literally study 12th standard maths. So I took admission in an open school. This is sometime in February, and the board exams are in March. So I had just about a month to prepare. So there was this guy from IIT hostel nearby. He used to come every evening to teach me maths. So from 8 o'clock till 12 p.m., 8 p.m. till 12 o'clock, midnight, he would teach me maths, 4 hours of maths. Okay. And I used to put my kids to bed. So my husband is a pilot. He flies with Air India, and he would go on his flights and everything. But I had just had that much window to actually sit and study. So I would put my kids to bed, and then I would just go ahead and study maths, and then the whole day do the homework and everything, and then just continue with it. So, and I went ahead, cleared the paper, thankfully, and then I had to study for flying. There's a lot that you have to study. There are about 4 or 5 subjects and quite a bit of studies required. Okay. And it wasn't easy. So I had to even apply for student's loan. And now I'm married, I have 2 kids. And now to apply for a student's loan, there were not many banks which were really willing to even give you money or give you a student's loan. But eventually one of them agreed. And then I was on my way. And the flying experiences were amazing. They were so beautiful. There's so much that we got to create there. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can go on and on talking about flying.
And then you worked as a pilot?
So no, I didn't get to work as a pilot. That was the choice I made eventually, because I was gone for about 8 to 9 months. I was in Florida while my mom was here taking care of my kids. And later on, my mother-in-law pitched in, so she came in. Once I got back after about 8 to 9 months, a lot had changed with my kids, especially my son. You know, he had changed as a person. So I had to actually take a call that, you know, is it even worth it if it's going to affect my kids? Because he didn't really take well to my being away for so many months. So that was a thing that I really had to take a call based on that. So I chose to let go.
Okay. So what else, where did that lead next? What choices? And
so after that, I went on about life the regular way. And of course, I made a choice to leave flying, but deep in my heart, I used to really sort of really feel bad, because every time I would watch all those, see the aircrafts taking off and landing, and I would be like, oh, I should be there. You know, I should be the one taking off and landing those aircrafts. And so for the longest time, I felt really bad about it, but it was a choice and a decision I'd made, and it was important. And I'm so glad I took that decision when I did. Okay. But what that led me to was, since childhood, I've been very, very fond of occult sciences or all this mysticism and reading up about numerology and stuff. So I was doing all these courses on numerology and tarot and angel card, but it was more for myself, not to monetize it or to use it for anything else. In fact, I still don't use it for any of these things. It was just a journey for me. You know, I was just curious about things. So I've been a very, very curious person from the beginning. So, and I've always dabbled in a lot of things, like lots of things. Okay. So for example, before getting into flying, I even chose to, and my dad told me that I need to be a graduate before I get into flying. So I was like, okay, just for the heck of it, if I have to be a graduate, because that's my ultimate aim, I was like, what else can I do? What will be fun? So I actually graduated in Russian language.
Wow.
So three years of Russian, where I would write essays in Russian, and, you know, all those novels and all, Leo Tolstoy and stuff. I would read those novels in Russian language. So it used to be very, very, it was quite interesting.
Tolstoy in English itself is heavy, like in Russian.
Right. So in Russian, we had to read that and write essays. So it was 3 years. It was an honors graduation course, like BA honors in Russian. So yeah. So
deeply commendable.
Not that I get to use it at all right now, but yeah, that time it was interesting.
Who knows what translations you might be doing right now if required.
If required, you never know. But it's been a while since I actually started Russian, or even not really had any conversations with anyone in Russian language for years now. So yeah.
It's only 4 or 5 years ago. 4 or 5 years ago, when we joined our son in a school, we were told that Sanskrit and Russian have the longest wavelength in audio to the ear. So if you know these languages, you can actually learn everything very quickly at it.
Okay. Okay.
So that was a master
Awesome.
stroke.
So Russian is quite a bit like Sanskrit. It has the same conjugation of verbs and stuff. So it was interesting. See, for me, the reason I also chose Russian was because for our post-graduation, they were sending us to Russia to study. Okay. And for me, the travel part is what was interesting. So that's the reason. So I got through there's an exam that you have to write. Okay. And so I got through German, Japanese, as well as Russian. So that was the only reason I chose Russian language. And yeah, what else? Maybe in some past lifetime, I might have been a Russian.
Who knows? Yeah, even Raz maybe.
Or even Raz. You never know.
And how did Access happen?
So,
and what else do you do?
So I paint a little bit, which I'll come to in a while. So when I was as I mentioned, when I was learning numerology and tarot and all those things, because I was searching for some answers. Access came about during that time only because one of my the facilitators who I learned numerology from, she taught me Access also, the bars, and I just found it very fascinating. I was like, wow, this seems really, really interesting. It was always what you've known as possible, and I could just see that with Access, because I'm not the kind of person who will follow any rituals or even while praying and stuff. It is I wish well for everyone, but I'm not the ritualistic person. So Access gave me that freedom where I didn't have to follow any rituals. I didn't have to sort of take bath and only then be able to run bars or anything. It was just do whatever you want to without
it's a sense of freedom.
It's that sense of amazing freedom that it gave me. So I realized I've always seeked freedom from everything. During that time when I'd gone for flying, also just before I went for flying, I remember getting a tattoo on my right shoulder, and that was a tattoo of a hummingbird. So that was my first sign of rebellion, where I was like, I'm done dealing with a lot of things, done pleasing people. I'm choosing for something for myself now. So I chose that tattoo for myself, and a whole lot of things, few acts of rebellion, things like getting the navel pierced and stuff. And I was like, okay, today I think what made me do all that. But yeah, that was a phase that I went through too, before I went for flying. So yeah, those were little acts of rebellion. Rebelling against just pleasing everyone, just catering to everyone else's happiness and forgetting myself. So it was freedom from that. And when I discovered Access, I realized that, my life had been in an autopilot all this while. The moment I came across Access, I started actually choosing and creating my life. Mostly after the first foundation class. That just set me free, seriously. There were a whole lot of issues that cropped up immediately after that class, because I had to deal with a lot of gaslighting, a lot of invalidation and stuff from the same facilitator who had taught me Access bars. And so we had a common group of friends in the same locality, and they suddenly had to take sides and stuff because I was made wrong because I did not choose the foundation with her. That's all. That was the only reason for the whole issue. And then you know how it is when someone just tries to control you, where in the name of empowering, you are just sort of not allowed to grow. Right? And especially when you put up people on a pedestal, when you really think very highly of them, and then they sort of just totally disregard that and start sort of using you, that wasn't empowering to me. And that was something that I had to sort of get out of. So I had a tough time. The 3 years where I could have done a lot, but I sort of stopped myself. But, one thing that I didn't stop was to choose for myself. I went on to do, I think after foundation class, I must have attended one Access class every month.
Wow.
So there were facilitators coming to India, or I was attending the online telecalls or whatever, but I was choosing a class almost every month. Okay, one after another, whether it was Right Body for You, Talk to the Entities, or the works, whatever classes were available, because it was something that was just really setting me free in every aspect of my life.
Mm.
And then I started stepping out. I started traveling. So I went to London for the ESP class. And from that time onwards, there was no stopping, because I traveled to at least, I think, 9 different countries in 10 months. Okay, one after another, to choose to be a CF and a maestro.
Mm.
Because I realized that these classes were creating so much of change for me. I really wanted to empower people with that. So the classes that I facilitate are the ones that have really, really created a lot of change for me.
Mm.
So that's what this is all about.
And how do they choose? Like, you know, there are a lot of people, like when we see in the groups or in a large sharing of information, there are a lot of classes do come up, right? And there are, I can see that there are a few people who continuously keep choosing, and there are some people who still not choose and choose limitation. What would you have to say to that? I mean, what were your go-to tools to actually choose, and how did you go about that?
See, for me, Nivedita, I think I'm a little different. I just follow an energy. There was no right or wrong. I did not choose a class for a reason. There was no reason for me to choose any classes. I just followed an energy. Those classes would just call out to me. I just knew I had to attend those.
Yeah.
There was nothing, no planning required or whatever. And I realized also one more thing. The moment I would choose it, the money would show up for it. A lot of people actually start making money very significant, where they start making the lack of funds the reason why they can't choose.
Correct.
You know, but that's the way that's a method that they are using to limit themselves. That's what
so there's a choosing and unchoosing almost instantly. I mean,
right. I did not ever make money an issue. It's not that it would just show up. Like, I mean, it's not that I had a lot of money to keep choosing those classes. It wasn't like that. But I would just choose a class. Whether I have the money or not was immaterial. Okay, so I made that goal. I have to be a CF, and I made a list. Okay, these are the classes that I have to do. And so what next? So I would just keep moving to the next class. I made a whole timetable. Okay, this month, this class, this month, this class, this month. And it was amazing, because people would come to attend my classes from all over the place, like from different cities. And it's not that I used to advertise that much earlier, but it was just word of mouth, and they would just turn up for my classes. What I'm trying to say is, when you really make up your mind, there's nobody can stop you. You will find ways to make it happen. I mean, I've had so many incidences later on also, even after being a CF, where, you know, at times when I really wanted to choose something and I didn't have enough money for that, but I was willing to still go there. So suppose I had to go to Rome for the Maestro class, I remember once, and I didn't have the money, and I was willing to go there all the way. I had enough money to pay for the class, for the flight tickets and the hotel, but I didn't have enough money to sustain myself there. Okay. And I was like, you know what? I'll eat an apple a day. I'll survive on that, but I'm still choosing this class. Okay. And before I left, a few hours before I left, suddenly a friend just transferred ₹1,00,000 in my bank account. And I was like, wow, that's interesting. And then she transferred another lakh. So I won't get into the details of that. But the thing is, and eventually they charged me less for that class, like a little bit percentage less. And I was like, what's happening? So when you actually make a demand, the entire universe starts to contribute very beautifully with so much of ease. A lot of times we make demands, but we're not even willing to receive the contribution. So that's what just sort of showed up for me.
And can you tell me about the business done different class, and how you use the piloting experience and how you work with it differently?
So I recently did a radio show, the Om Times radio show, where I've explained it in great detail with every maneuver and stuff and all my flying experiences. I've just sort of weaved them together.
Is there a link of that available?
Yes, I'll forward that to you. So what I've done is I've weaved the flying experiences and a whole lot of tools of Joy of Business along with each other, and created a beautiful this thing. But that was my very first radio show, and I for the longest time I was judging that it didn't go well because I just had one take for that. I didn't really have time to go through it, or I had a whole lot of judgments about it. But I've realized one thing: whenever you're stopping yourself because you're trying to make something perfect, okay, every time you happen to stop yourself, just ask, okay, who will this contribute to? And just let it go. You don't have to revisit it. You don't have to go through the recording again. Record and just pass it on forward. Okay. Because I remember I did that, and then I had so many people called me up and they were like, wow, this has really contributed to us. Because if I would have kept on judging myself, okay, how my voice sounds so kiddish and this and that, and I'm speaking too fast, I was like, okay, what if all of that did not matter?
Yeah.
What if the content is what mattered, and it contributes to people? So I will send the link to that,
because I would like to add it to the description of this, so people who would like to see this and continue with that.
Sure. I will forward that. And also, how much have the fear of failure or the fear of being judged stopping people from actually choosing? When you let go of all those things, there's so much out there. When you actually start seeing your own value and worth, that's what Access created for me. So
we don't value our own space, we don't value our own being, and we don't value our choices. And reality takes a different turn.
Right. That's exactly what it is. The moment you start valuing yourself, everybody around you changes. The way they treat you, the way they speak with you, everything. You can go around saying, oh, why doesn't anyone see how good I am? Or you can actually just turn around and acknowledge, hey, I'm really good. And that's when people will start seeing that about you.
Yeah.
Because the moment you doubt yourself, that's the energy that people are picking up. And they also start doubting you. So that's something I've learned in Access, and I realized, wow, that's really helped me a lot. So you'd asked about Joy of Business.
Yes, Joy of Business and Business Done Different.
So Business Done Different is one of the master classes of Joy of Business. It's part of Joy of Business. And it's my most favorite class because I love the change it creates for people and the way they start choosing more and more and more for themselves. And usually when I conduct a class, it's not that they've attended a class and I let go of them. I'm just there hand-holding till whatever time they want, helping them out wherever they require. Basically, making sure I keep pushing them off the cliff every few weeks or few months whenever required. The moment they get into that lack or limitation and stuff, or why they can't do something, that's me. That's the time. Boom, push. So I seem to have a lot of fun doing that. But Business Done Different class is one hell of a class. It provides you with some amazing tools in every aspect of your life, because the tools are not just for the creation of business, it's for the creation of your life. Yeah. And as Simone says, if you have blood running through your veins, you're in the creation of life.
You're alive.
You're alive and you're in business. So creation of your life is your business. And how would you like to create? So another thing I'd like to mention here while we are on the topic is, even though I'd got through Access and I've been a certified facilitator for almost 4 to 5 years now, 4 or 5 years, I always still had that regret. Okay, I didn't get to fly as a pilot, any of the airlines. And I would feel bad about that, okay? Till a friend called me. This was just a few months ago. He called me. He was way junior to me, age-wise, but he was my colleague while we were flying during training and stuff. So he just called. He's like, what are you doing these days? Because you seem to be having a lot of fun. You're just traveling all over the world, interacting with a lot of people. All your posts on Facebook are so joyful and all. What are you doing? You seem to be having more fun than the pilots. And when he said that, I was like, wait a minute. Actually, that is true. I am having a lot of fun with whatever I'm doing. Where did I not acknowledge that?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to fly also because I could get to travel, and I've already created that travel for me. I'm actually creating my life with all these tools. So that regret that I had has stopped. I know that whenever I want, I can still go ahead and fly, maybe hire a plane. It doesn't have to look like the way it is supposed to. Like, a lot of us stop ourselves from choosing things in life because we've decided this is how it has to look. And if it does not show up like that, then we'll forever keep on regretting that. Do you get it?
Yeah.
And this,
we think that we are required to do this, but we are actually taken in a direction that is coming towards us, but we don't acknowledge what's given. And
right.
We're still stuck here.
Right. We're still stuck here, and we're not even acknowledging the whole world, the whole new universe has opened up for us. And we're still stuck. Oh, but it didn't show up like this.
That point of view of how it has to show up.
Yeah, right. So that's, in spite of being a CF for a while, it struck me then that, hey, I'm actually creating a life that I desire. And frankly, that would have been very restrictive because I would have been limited to certain hours and not having the freedom to create a life that I desire, because you have to be on duty all the time and things like that. And no vacations when you want it and all. I realize I'm creating my life the way I want to. I can go on a vacation when I want to. And I'm creating a job that I don't really require to take a vacation from. So it's I wake up every morning and I'm just so joyful. There's so much to create. There's so much of change.
Yeah. Who knows, this is asking for a jumbo jet, a private one.
Yes, you never know.
Recently, I saw an aircraft which is being shown in a video, which has a place where you can actually conduct a workshop in air.
I would love that. Oh my God.
I would so love that. Flying over places, you can still go. This is also a dream that I have. People want to travel. Let's travel all together. But while we are traveling, we can also change our inner space, not just go in outer space. So
that's so cool.
So there is an entire segment where there's a seating space. It's supposed to be, there's a picture of a big fish. It's called a whale or dolphin or something. I forgot the thing. But recently, maybe something like that. Who knows?
Who knows? Long back in Air India, they used to have these aircrafts where they had an upper deck. And that upper deck used to be actually a bar. Like there were sofas over there and there was a round bar over there where some people would give you drinks and stuff. So it was like an area to socialize throughout the flight. And then when it came to takeoff and landing, people would go back to their own seats and sit down there. But throughout the flight, they were there just chit-chatting and socializing. So
I'm still hoping you'll have a class mid-air.
What else is possible? I would love to be a part of that.
Just everybody running bars on an aircraft back to back, like. What else is possible?
What else is possible? Seriously.
Yeah, I keep getting these crazy ideas when I'm sitting in a flight and it's like, why can't we just run bars, chain bars running?
Absolutely. So yeah, the business done different class opens you up to all these possibilities and way more. I mean, so there's something I'd like to share here. When I went to join, when I chose the Joy of Business CF to become a JCF, I had no clue what I was going in for. And I did not really have any prior experience with business, or I'm not exposed to any business families or anything. So I really did not know what exactly why I'm choosing this. All I knew was this is something that's calling out to me. Okay. And because I just followed the energy and I chose to be that. And initially, when I got added to one of the WhatsApp groups of the JCF, there were JCFs worldwide, and they would all be creating all the time. So every time I would wake up in the morning, by then someone on the other side of the world would have created so much. And there came a time when I actually started dreading picking up my phone because I didn't really want to know, because I got into so much of self-judgment that, hey, they're creating so much and I'm the only one left. I don't have any stories to share or anything. So much has changed since then, because that time for me, access classes and conducting classes were more of a hobby. Okay, if someone asks for it, I'll go ahead with it. I didn't even see it as a business as such. All I knew was most of the classes that I was choosing was just for myself.
Yeah.
Okay. And then when I saw all of them creating so beautifully, and I realized that they're having a lot of fun. They would be at the beach, but yet having business meetings. They'll be sipping cocktails and yet conducting business meetings across the world, not just there amongst themselves.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, this looks like so much fun. And I started creating similar way, where there are times when I would wake up in the middle of the night and I would just have some ideas and I would just go ahead, create the creative and put out a class or put out some creation. And then I started acknowledging and realizing that you don't have to stop. There is no particular time for a business. Even on a weekend, if you come up with a great idea, just go ahead and create, or just go ahead with things. Don't let anything stop you.
Yeah.
And if you're having a lot of fun, that's what's more important.
There is a point of view that I realized that happens, especially when I'm staying with my son and working with the school and all that. I just realized that as Indians, we have certain cultures or stratifications. As Europeans, right, there are stratifications. If we actually look ourselves as a global person, then we can drop all these stratifications and we can actually choose what makes us happy instead of trying to be obligated to being a mother or a child or a wife or whatever. We can be and switch roles many times, and it doesn't have to be in time frames.
Right. And the thing is, the fact that you don't have to stop yourself for anything. I mean, during the COVID, it's not a wrongness. During the COVID time also, during this lockdown, suddenly there were no maids coming to our place. So I had to do everything myself, from cooking to cleaning, and yet conducting classes and the book clubs that I conduct very often. And I realized that it was getting too much. But then I realized that, I was the one taking so much time. I would keep on cooking till 4 o'clock. And then I realized this is not working. So once I had classes lined up, because I have a class right now, I would finish all the cooking and everything and be done by 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's it, and then I'm free the whole day to conduct the class. And I realized that was so much fun, because I would actually end up creating so much more just like that. So you don't let anything stop you.
This is actually a space where you can, there's something called scientific management that we were taught when we were in MBA, where after you do something repeatedly, you bring down the time.
Right.
So we are actually now in a space, we are actually given the possibility of a space where we don't have to wait for the maid and this and that and wait for the time slot to go. We can actually finish it and go do much more.
Right. Absolutely. And the thing is, when you have 10 things going on simultaneously, you're totally present with each of your creations.
Yes.
Totally present. And then, and you just get it done better.
So thank you for sharing that so much is possible. If somebody is actually stopping themselves from saying, okay, this is there, that is there, and 10 things are there. It's not 10 things. I think we can handle 100 things or more if you really choose to.
I know there's so much. Like at this moment, I'm doing all the housework. I'm cooking. The dishes also I do myself. And I conduct classes. I conduct book clubs. And I also managed to take out time for the Netflix, watch some episodes, which is something it's been years since I even watched TV or anything, but I suddenly now have time for those nice episodes and stuff, some interesting ones. And I'm actually enjoying, and get to read also a bit. So at this moment I'm doing I think more than 10 things simultaneously, and I'm actually having a lot of fun doing that. So there's nothing that should be stopping you.
Be the unstoppable you.
Yes, be the unstoppable you.
That's your message.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And one more thing. The thing is, choosing for you is not about choosing against someone. Okay, it's about including everyone, and that everyone includes you also. Include yourself also in that everyone.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. Like, don't just.
Thank you for saying that.
You're welcome.
With an underline.
Cool. What else would you like to ask?
I don't have any questions. I'm satiated with your presence and the whole story of it.
Okay, cool.
So I have put all the descriptions of how people can reach you in the description box below. And the more people see it and experience a conversation with you, I think there is more change that we can create. Somewhere Dr. Dane also said that if two people having a conversation and it's going to contribute to minimum 7 lakh people and more.
Absolutely.
And possibilities begin to happen. So asking for that. Thank you so much. Thank
You're
you really
welcome.
so much.
And thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much.